Good morning, my creative friends. Dr. Minette Riordan here with Painting in Your PJs live with Minette. And I apologize for running just a couple of minutes behind this morning. I have another meeting at 8 and decided I needed to have a shower and get a little cleaned up and ready for that. But this is how we roll raw live. And I have a super fun project. I wanted to go a little bit different direction today. And we're going to make a self love little folded zine. So you're going to want a piece of mixed media paper or even plain printer paper, any size. I've also, good morning, Nikki. I've also pulled some different bits of collage paper here that I'll be using. I think this was some music and this gorgeous tissue paper that a friend sent along that I think will be great for collaging. So good morning, Judy. So I have some fun collage supplies here. Oh, looks like I ended up with some extra things, a piece of fabric, so who knows? And some more music. So I have a bunch of, good morning, Barbara. So I have a variety of different collage supplies this morning. And in the description for the video, and also I'm going to stick it in the chat right here. There is a link to a Google Doc that has this list of self-love affirmations. So we're going to be creating a pretty little mixed media zine that we can add affirmations to. And then tomorrow, because we probably won't finish today, I will show you how to make a really cool envelope, sort of a library style envelope. I learned this technique from my friend Andrea. And we're going to make an envelope to put in our journal that we can tuck our little zine into. So we're going to have a two-part project today on how to create a zine using simple sheet of paper. And zine is just short for magazine style, magazine style. And again, this was folded out of one sheet of a pretty big sheet of paper. And here is a list of self-love affirmations. In Google Docs, you can print it out as is, or you can make a copy of it. You can go under, I think it's File, make a copy, save it to your own drive, and play with fonts. If you choose, no login or anything required, but you do need a Google account, or you can write any affirmations that you choose. So I have my list of affirmations here as well this morning. And I have this nice big pad of Canson 9 by 12 mixed media paper. So I'm going to play with that because I think it'll make kind of a decent sized zine. And I'm just going to give it a little squeeze along the perforation there so that comes out easily. And I love making these little zines. It is so fun and simple. It's a great way to just add pages or create little simple journals or little secret journals to tuck away inside of other journals. And as you guys know, I love all the tip-ins, fold-outs, pop-ups, all the different ways that we can create and add to our journal. So I have this piece of 9 by 12 mixed media paper. I'm first going to fold that in half hot dog style, meaning along the horizontal line. And see, I do have a bone folder here, which is helpful for getting those creases nice and flat, but also just the handle of a pair of scissors. And you'll also need a pair of scissors to make this little zine. And then I'm going to fold it hamburger style. So across the opposite line from where I have just folded that zine. And so now I have 4 folds in my little book here. And then I'm going to turn my page lengthwise. And I'm going to fold each side into the center. I'm going to fold each side into the center. And this is going to make an interesting kind of long, skinny little booklet here. So I'm just folding those each into, or maybe just a little shy of the center, because that will help it fold flat. We want those to lie flat in the center. So here I have my handy dandy little zine. Good morning, Blanca. I'm going to fold it in half again. I'm going to fold it in half again, hamburger style, right? So when we do it long ways, this is hot dog, this is hamburger. And then I am going to, along the folded side of the zine, I'm just going to snip right along that fold just to the center of my folded lines, right? Just to the center of my folded lines. So first we folded it hot dog style, then hamburger style. Then we folded each of the ends in. Then we folded it hamburger style again and snipped just to the center from the folded edge to the center. Now I am going to flip it hot dog style one more time. And then I'm going to set it up on its end like this. And I'm going to smush it together. And I'm going to fold one fold to the front and one fold to the back. And I can see where my folds are off. So you want to just fold it so it lies relatively flat. And there we have a wonderful, simple little zine that we're going to fancy up with collage and paint and create our little affirmations book that tomorrow we will make and decorate a pocket and adhere this and put this into whatever journal you're working on. So now that I've created this little zine, I'm going to open the whole thing up again, flat. And I'm going to create over the top of this whole page rather than working in little tiny squares. I want to create one sort of cohesive background out of this whole little book. And I'm going to go back over here. And I'm thinking, okay, so this is going to be the side that I'm working on. So we'll have to pay attention to this when we refold it after we decorate it. And so I thought this morning I would start with some collage bits. So I've gathered just a bunch of different pieces of collage. I definitely want some of that music, not feeling that fabric. I'm sort of feeling kind of Valentine's-y colors, maybe keeping the palette of this one in pinks and reds. And I found this piece of, this is one of my pieces of under paper on newsprint. And this one is from an old highlights magazine, and I just wanted some text. So I'm going to just pull that text off, save that fun image for something else. And I loved this, excuse me, beautiful picture of this woman. I've been having the worst allergies this week. I'm going to drink some water. Apologies for that. I loved this, and this one may not get painted over. I might save that for a different layer. I absolutely love this. This is from a really old Saturday evening post. And this month on Painting in Your PJs Live with Minette, we're focusing on different aspects of self-love. And so I thought it would be fun to create this little scene full of beautiful affirmations and images that when we're having a rough day, we'll be able to flip back through. And not only do I love this beautiful image of this woman getting a bunch of roses, but there's a story that goes with this Saturday evening post. My beloved friend Andrea Shebelu and I had a girls' weekend to the coast of California, and we were staying in this little tiny town. And we went and walked around the town, and we stumbled across, these are kind of cool letters too, and we stumbled across just a thrift store consignment shop. It was mostly kids stuff, and we thought, oh, we'll go in and see, maybe they'll have some good kids books. I'm so in love with this tissue paper that my friend Leslie sent me. So I'm going to pull some of this off. And being who we are, we got to chatting with the lady behind the counter who was the owner and telling her what we were up to, because obviously we were not there shopping for our children. All of our children are grown and, no longer in need of board books and strollers. So I'm going to grab my matte medium and I'm just going to start gluing bits of collage all over this page. And she said, hey, I have these old Saturday Evening Post magazines. I think they're maybe from the 40s. I don't have the date in front of me. And wonder if it says here's the date. This is so cool. I was wrong. 1929. This one's from June 1929. And someone had dropped these off at her shop and she said, sure, I'll take them. And she had saved them under the counter for months and months, and she gifted them to us. We offered to pay her, but she gifted us these two beautiful old Saturday Evening Post. And so I have fun using it on occasion in my collage. All right, so let's get our matte medium. And this is definitely going to be a 2-day project. We'll see how far we get today, and I'll finish the rest tomorrow. I've got my Catalyst wedge here, Starbucks old gift card, hotel key card, cleaned it off so I have a nice smooth edge on here. When you're collaging with tissue paper or thinner papers, you don't need to put the matte medium on the back of the image. But with those heavier images, it's good to have your matte medium on both the front and back of images. And I'm just going to let that hang right off the edge because I can trim it later. So I don't need to worry about it being too perfect on there. And I'm going to move quickly. And adding collage does a few different things when you're working in a mixed media journal like this. For me, it helps get some marks down on the paper, it adds some texture, but it also increases the integrity of the paper. And because I like to do a lot of mixed media layers, I have more layers to work with. My paper's less likely to tear. So I'm just going to move around the page and get some of these different bits of color and collage. Learning to work fast. My friend Kat Carasello calls it quick fire creative, where you don't really think, but you set a timer, 15 minutes, even 5 minutes, grab some collage or a little bit of paint, and just put paint and image on a page. It's a fabulous way to get over the fear of the blank page, to start to let your intuition take over. I find it such a powerful, powerful tool for letting our intuition guide our practice. So sometimes you're wondering, why is she going so fast? It's so that I can get out of my own way, so that I'm not sitting here overthinking or caught up in like the details and is the collage in the perfect place. I don't care about any of that right now. Most of this is going to get painted over anyway. My point is to get texture down. As always, what I love about using the matte medium is that if I do want to push paint back to some of those under layers, I can do that. Let's see, let's get some of this color down on here. So again, this is a little bit thicker bit of paper. So I am putting the matte medium over I put it on the back and on the surface so I can get a nice smooth surface. I'm trying to avoid gluing over my opening here. If little pieces are sticking out, I will trim them up later. It's all good. But just moving these pieces around, the color around. I'm being pretty generous and abundant with my matte medium. Again, I want to have that really nice surface on there that was maybe a little over abundant. Starting to layer some of those pieces up. Tissue paper is tricky to get down really smooth, so sometimes you got to work at it a little bit gently, otherwise you'll end up with holes in it. This one is a little bit thicker than your average tissue paper, which is another reason that I like it so much. Making sure I get that matte medium all the way to the edges of my zine, letting my paper hang over, but I want to make sure those edges are nice and stuck down. And you can see sometimes where you have a bubble, it's because you didn't get the matte medium under there smoothly enough, and sometimes just lifting it up gently and adding a little more matte medium will help you go back in and smooth that out. Love these blue polka dots here. Let's bring those maybe and layer them over here. And I love creating sheets like this. Oops, I got off screen there a little bit, like just full of collage bits. It's fun, it's easy, it creates a beautiful background, and it gives me something to respond to when I start painting. So I'm just pulling that up a little bit, trying to get some of those bumps out. And it's okay if there's bumps. I just like a flat surface, but if you don't mind all that texture, then I totally encourage you to just go for it. I don't know what it is about sheet music. I love the marks, the reminder of the music maybe, and there's something about I have quite a few old sheet books that either I bought or from when my kids were little and taking piano lessons, and I love using sheet music in my work. Maybe it's the black and white patterns, maybe it's just a love of music. And I do tend to tear the edges that are super blank around the edges of the music where there's no pattern. I do tend to take that off. All right, and usually if I have extra matte medium, I'll just stick that right back in the bottle. We don't need to cover the entire surface with collage, but again, just getting something down to respond to move the journey along a little bit. Trying to decide, I want one more piece of music on here somewhere, so maybe one little piece over here in the corner. So again, putting matte medium on the back and on the surface. And after I fold this up, I might decide that I want to do both sides. We'll see how it looks when it's all folded, but today we're going to play with just one side. So how's everyone doing this morning? If you're still hanging out, playing along as we create this fun little zine, or if you have any questions, love to hear. How's everyone doing this morning? How's everyone doing this morning? I am going to get my handy dandy baby wipe and just clean off my catalyst wedge here. And already this is a bright, happy page. It's a bright, happy page. It makes me happy just looking at it. And I didn't start with words this time because I'm going to end with words, but I'm almost feeling like I want to come in with my Sharpie and just maybe add a few words to the page here. So I'm going to hit this with the dryer, get it nice and dry, and then do a little bit of journaling in some of those white spaces. And I'd love to hear from other people. How are you guys doing this morning? I love that, Barbara, waking up with your tea, specifically Irish tea. And I love that you and your sister get together and have playtime on Zoom. I have a few girlfriends that I love getting together with for online Zoom art time. It's a great time to just connect and chat. So I'm just going around and trimming where I let that bits of collage hang over just so I can see the full edges of my pages here. And I'm going to come in with just a black permanent pen. And I'm going to encourage you to just write down some of the things that you love about yourself on the page. So I would I have so many dead pens over here. My husband accuses me of having too many pens, but I go through them a lot. So I would say I love my creativity. I've always loved my hair and my eyes. You might start with what I love about myself is, and if it's hard to find anything about yourself that you love, what's something about yourself that you appreciate? Something about yourself that you appreciate. And just take a minute to get some of your own words down on the page that you're working on. I think I'm a good mother most of the time, a good wife, things that I work on that are external that I appreciate about myself, right? Teaching is definitely my place of joy and happiness. I have a lot of resilience to get through hard times. Hmm. I love finding beauty in the small things. So just getting a few, again, words of things that, what is it that I love about myself? And so here we still have our little zine that's starting to come together, right? And so now you can kind of take a sneak peek. It's a little wet, so it may be just a little bit tricky to fold until it's dry. That piece over there doesn't want to pop out. Come on. So I may have to go back and do all my folds again at the end. I probably will. But this gives you an idea of where we're going, and we're going to have this beautiful little mixed media zine once we're done with our affirmations added to it. Doing great up since 4. Woof, that's early. I was up at 5 and happy to be up at 5, but when I'm up at 4, it just makes the rest of the day seem long, but it does happen. But I'm glad you're here painting along with your coffee. Perfect. So now I think I'm going to come in with my brayer and some white paint with my brayer and my some white paint, and I'm just going to put a layer of white over the whole thing because again, remember how we talked about adding a solid color to the background just sort of brings everything together. So I'm not trying to cover up all of the things that I've just done, but to just kind of bring back that surface, right? Bring back that surface. If I can find my white paint, bear with me for a minute. I have things kind of all spread out this morning. I got big piles of stuff around. My visual journaling club class starts today, so I have things all ready and set out for that as well. So I'm going to start with the brayer, and if that's thicker than I want it to be, then, I might come back with my scraper and push that back a little bit more. So the pen that I used, it's pretty permanent when it dries, but when it's still wet, it smears a little bit. But I love that I can still see the marks through there, but I can't read the writing, and nobody needs to be able to read that but me. And I'll also remind people that the weekend of the February 18th, we have our brand new mini workshop, Color Coded Emotions, where we'll be looking at the connection between color and emotions, creating our own beautiful color wheel to represent our emotions that we can use as a tool for bringing more calm. We'll be working with our sacred circle designs and showing how we can bring more play and mindfulness to our daily creative practice with just really simple processes, tools, and intentions. So I can still see some of those bits of color around the edges. I can still see some of the writing. That one's coming up just a little bit there. So grab just a touch of matte medium and stick that down. I love creating just big sheets like this when even just the collage parts turn out beautiful. It's always worth taking a photo or making some photocopies of it and reusing your own work in other collages. So I have a theme in mind inspired by that wonderful photograph of the woman with the flowers, which there she is. So this is kind of the color theme that I'm going for. I kind of love the reds and the pinks and even a little bit of the grays and the blacks in there. And she's definitely going to end up on the inside on one of the pages with the affirmations, but I'm going to let this photo be my color inspiration. There's going to be some kind of sort of more neutral colors in there. All right, so I'm going to grab some red and some white. And maybe a little bit of this think this was a Delusions Pink Flamingo. It's kind of a fun, little more magenta-y pink. And some of this fun, bright fluorescent pink here. And I'm going to come in with just a really big, soft brush. And I'm just going to start moving some color around the page. Again, remember, we're still creating backgrounds. It's great if it mixes with some of that white. I'm going to start adding in some of that pink. I did not clean my brush. And you can see it makes a really interesting texture just by virtue of the brush itself, right? Because it's in just an inexpensive, there's a name for these brushes I've forgotten, maybe someone else remembers. But they're great little brushes. But I'm really liking this sort of interesting texture that the brush itself is creating. I talk a lot about how can you let your paintbrush do the work for you, right? Let your paintbrush do the work for you. Okay, that feels really yummy already, and it doesn't need to have complete coverage on the page. I like that I can still see some of the bits shining through. Maybe a little more of that bright pink over here, just a little bit. Clean that brush off. Did a bunch of cleaning on brushes and my scrapers. Okay, so now it's feeling like it definitely needs to have some of that black come back in. And I'm thinking what would be fun and keep me, like I'm thinking, oh, stencils would be nice and neat on here, but that feels like maybe a little too perfect, and I'm wanting to keep this a little more abstract. So I'm going to come in with my Stabilo Marks All pencil. And I'm just going to, and it may still be too wet, I'm just going to get some marks going. And remember that we're creating over all the pages in our zines, right? And so by the time this is folded up, these lines will, some of them will be whole on the page, some of them will be a little more abstract. Then I'm going to come back in with a little bit more of that matte medium and see how can I activate that black. I may need to let the page dry a little bit more before I add all that black. And I'm looking for a brush that's half dead already, and I am going to put it in the matte medium. Matte medium is not always a friend. And it's usually really good for activating the Stabilo Marks All, but I can see that I'm going to need to get my page dry and then come back with that black one more time to get it really dark and activated on the page. But already it's a visually fun and interesting page. I'm going to get this dry real quick and put myself on mute. All right, that's mostly dry. So I'm going to dip my Stabilo directly into my water and just come back and get some blacker marks on the page. I kind of like the grayed out circles a little bit that were on there already. Again, remembering that I'm working across the folds of my pages. And I know so many people think of Valentine's Day as simply just another Hallmark holiday, but for me, there's something about being surrounded in the winter by the beautiful colors of the flowers and the hearts and the designs, and just to have a day, a month that are focused on love, love of self, love of others. I think we can make it what we want it to be, and that I always feel like it's a special day if we make it a special day. And as someone who's really struggled with self acceptance and on just a lot of self criticism and judgment, the more that I can give myself the gift of a month focused on just loving, honoring, and accepting myself, it's a tremendous gift to give. All right, so I think I'm going to come in now with a stencil and some white paint and just brighten this up a little bit more with some white paint. I love repurposing makeup sponges, making them last a little bit longer, so I just took my scissors and cut the dried tip off to get back to a nice clean surface for reusing that makeup sponge. And I've got just a piece of sequin waste here, which just makes a wonderful light-hearted little polka dot pattern. And in our color-coded emotions, I'm thinking about this and thinking about how, red and pink have become the colors of love and Valentine's Day. But maybe that's not what red means to you. And that's one of the things we're going to explore in color-coded emotions. The link is in the description of the video below. But one of the things that we're going to explore is not traditional color theory or color psychology, of which there is a lot of study done around what specific colors mean, but we're going to assign what do they mean to us, because red for me is definitely about passion, but it could also be about anger and rage, right? It's the color of fire and heat. And that gets softened a lot when we add the whites and the pinks. But I think it's important to think about your use of color in your art. And what does the color mean? And how can you use color to boost your mood and lift your spirit? So, those are all some of the fun things that we're going to be talking about as we go forward into our color coded emotions weekend. So I'm going to get all of this dry again one more time, and then I'm going to fold it up and show you how I might work on the individual pages. All right, just trying to get some of that black dry or blot it off before I fold it. At this stage, this is a super fun page, and I don't have my phone sitting in front of me, but normally I would take a snapshot of this because this would make a beautiful piece of collage paper for other projects. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm actually really loving little spots of yellow. So on some of the individual pages, I might bring some of that yellow back. So again, I'm going to fold my little zine, hot dog style, and grab a bone folder or a pair of scissors, whatever you have sitting in front of you. And I'm just going to refold my fold. So I folded it hot dog style. And you can start to see as we fold it already, right? We're getting the different little visions of our little pages and what they're going to look like. And what I love about this process is when you see all the little individual pages, like how different they are from the whole, and they become these beautiful little works of art all by themselves. So I'm going to fold it hot dog style, lengthwise, and I'm going to pinch that pieces in the center together, so then I have something that looks like this. And then I'm just going to fold all those pages down together. And it's not a perfect fold, but I'm not a perfect girl, so that one's giving me some grief. I think I got off one of my fold lines here, so sometimes we just have to go back and refold a little bit, neaten up those lines. There we go. And we can fold it again. And we have our beautiful little painty zine. I can still see some of my words, some of my background colors, patterns and textures. If I wanted to make it longer, I could actually go in and clip across a couple of these folds and make that book be even fuller. But I think for today, it's perfectly fine the way it is. I haven't decided yet if I want to have an affirmation on the cover. So I think I'm going to just start on one of these inside spreads. And I think I'm going to start with this one. And I'm going to show you where I might go with this. And then tomorrow I'm going to show you how I would actually tuck this into my journal. So I'm going to come back to my picture of my lady here. And she may be too big for my little zine here. And she may even get saved to go on my journal page if she's too big to go in my zine, because I really love her and the look of appreciation. And I want to make sure I get her and the roses on the page. So here's where I start to just do some thinking, right? And so let me grab my journal. And I have this page where I just wasted or I didn't waste, but I had just started to put some paint down there. I have a couple of those in here that I wanted to fill in. So maybe I'll end up using this one. And so I'm wondering if maybe she becomes part of the page or the envelope. So this is going to get tucked in. Nope, it's not going to work. So this is how I start to think through projects, right? You get to see me thinking through different ways to do things. So what I'm going to do after I'm done here is that I am going to just take a photocopy of her and make her smaller so that I can put her into my book, because it just feels really important. I love that look on her face. I want her to be part of this project, and she's not quite fitting. And normally I like things that kind of hang over, so I could even just let her hang over the edge of the page a little bit, but that doesn't feel quite right either. All right, so I'm going to go back over here. I really love this page, and I'm thinking that I'm just going to maybe add a few more marks, but first I'm going to come in with a couple of these affirmations. And I love this one. The more I love myself, the better my entire health. The more I love myself, the better my entire health. I'm just cutting that out. And I get to decide, do I want one on the page? Do I want one on each page? I'm going to cut this one in half. The more I love myself, the better my health. I maybe kind of want those to flow across the two pages. This would be a great one to add a little more collage or maybe a focal point image, or even just to keep it more abstract. So I'm feeling like I'm going to want to maybe draw a little more on this page, but now I know where I'm going. And I'm just reading some of these to see what else I might want on the page. When I fully love myself, I am able to fully love others. Deciding to love myself is a wonderful agreement. I'm thinking that one might actually go on the cover of my book. I am worthy of love and I honor the joy that comes with it. So that's definitely one that I'm going to want in my book. I'm going to want my lady in here somewhere. But let's start here with this page. And I'm going to come in with a glue stick. And get those words down on the page and then come in again with just, I don't know, I'm kind of liking it just as it is. So, I tend to overcomplicate things. And so reminding myself that simple is beautiful. There doesn't always need to be more. What I love about this is I can still see the music. I can see some of the colors of that beautiful tissue paper, my own handwriting and marks and patterns. I like working with glue stick for these upper layers because it allows me to just move things around the page to get them placed where I want them. Maybe I'm going to come in and just darken up some of these things a little bit. Definitely going to come in with a white Posca and add maybe some few more marks and patterns on white, but it doesn't need a lot because we put a lot of our energy and effort into that first layer. The page is really lovely just as it is, and so we don't need to do too much to it, but this is just the fun part for me. Grab a white Posca here. And the first one I found was a pretty chunky one. Let's see, that one's coming out blue. I think this is an old one. That's better. So just bringing back that little bit of those polka dots and making them maybe a little bit whiter on there so they show up a little bit more. Again, my favorite, just little dots and lines. Maybe we need some hugs and kisses on the page. Have fun with your sister, Barbara. And I think that's all it needs. Part of me is tempted to maybe add one little more spot of yellow to just because my eye is being really pulled to this corner. But if I move that yellow around a little bit, I think my eye will go to other places on the page. And I'm just doing that with a Posca. And all of a sudden the page feels more balanced, right? It feels like my eye isn't quite so stuck over here, but I've added that paint and those marks around the page. So I will probably finish up my booklet a little bit later today when I have some playtime. Make sure I get those nice and dry in there. And then tomorrow I'll create a whole page in my journal with an envelope so that I can tuck this little self-love affirmation zine into my full journal. So that one definitely needs a little more glue there. But it's a good start in the process. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm also off to a meeting. As always, thank you for joining me live, watching the replay. This is Dr. Manette Riordan, Painting in Your PJs live. And today we started a little self-love zine. And yeah, Blanca, if you go back to the very beginning of the video, so when it was folded hamburger style like this, we cut on the folded side to the center. So that's what helped us create that fold. So thank you everyone so much for joining me today. As always, I love being here with you and I will see you again soon. Have a beautiful rest of your day.